We can't appreciate the redemptive love of Christ and the light that emerged from the darkest of days for my guest without revisiting the tragic day that shocked a nation and left many staggering under the weight of what seemed a victory for evil.
When it's someone that you've loved, the lens with which you look at the story is completely different because it's not a story, it's your life. That was a gorgeous day. It was one of those Indian summer kind of days when you're still holding on to the beauty that's around you. We were hearing all the noises of harvesting happening in the fields, but still in the midst of that, it was warm and beautiful. We walked down to the bus stop with the kids, and he kissed them and said that he loved them. I didn't understand the scope of what was going on until the police came to my door. They said that Charlie walked into the schoolhouse, that he held the girls hostage. You know, he shot them, and that 5 of them died before he shot himself. You know, to know that the man that walked down to the bus that morning and kissed his own kids and said that he loved them was capable of hurting someone else's children was unfathomable, yet there was no way to say that it couldn't happen because it just had.
One story from that horrific day has yet to be told. And unbelievably, it is not a story of sorrow or destruction. One light still shines, my life beyond the shadow of the Amish schoolhouse shooting. It is a privilege to meet and chat with Marie Monville, a lifetime resident of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and a very courageous mom.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We, of course, have to start back at that terrible day. And I guess the moment of your hearing news that was unfathomable. There was no warning, no preparation, no hint. You say in the book, Charlie had never been violent a day in his life. No rage, no threats. What was your biggest fear in receiving this news, Marie?
You know, I think for our community, for my family, just the way that life can change in an instant, taking you from, you know, all that you thought was secure and stable about life into this place where you can't predict the moment that's going to come.
It's almost ironic that the reality of your life was, it was a kind of country postcard. I mean, you had a rural, lovely family and cocooned upbringing. Your dad was a milkman of sorts. Right. Tell us what he did.
My great-grandfather had started the business that kind of became a family affair, and my dad picked up milk at the farms and took it to the dairy. I rode along with him many times as a child in his truck, and you know, this was a community. We were part of this community. We knew these people. You know, I had been to their farms. We saw their children playing. These weren't strangers to us.
The story that went around the world surprised even you, because it wasn't the horror of the murders.
Right.
It was the forgiveness that was just multi-layered, coming from the very people who had suffered loss.
Yes, you know, that afternoon as I was standing in my parents' kitchen looking out the window, I saw a group of Amish men walking down the street, and I knew they were coming to my parents' home. And I went to my mom and dad and said, "What do? I don't know what to say." You know, there wasn't time to even think about that by then, about what it would be like to talk with these people, and how would I express myself to them? And my dad said, just stay inside and I'll go out. And so I watched from the window, and I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see everything. You know, I saw them put their hands on his shoulder and wrap their arms around him. And as he came back inside, you know, it took him time to recover from the emotion of that moment. And he said, Marie, they came because they were concerned about you and the children. They want you to know that they've forgiven Charlie and that they're extending grace and compassion over your whole family.
I think the place where I really lost it, see, I'm having trouble even bringing it up, was the funeral of Charlie, your husband. Tell us what this community did for you and your children.
You know, that day, I thought it was probably one of the hardest days of my life. You know, you can't ever imagine what that's really going to feel like, but in that moment there wasn't any way to think that anything could be harder than this. Not just the emotion of losing your spouse, the father of your children, but the way that he chose to leave this world. And as we were driving to the cemetery, I saw that as we approached it, there were media across the street. And I was thinking, God, on this heart-wrenching day of our lives, I don't want the world looking in. I don't want to be a spectacle with my children and our family. And as we came around the corner and into the parking lot, a group of Amish people started walking towards us in a single file line. And as we drove in, they came and stood on the other side of our car, and they shielded us from the onlookers of the media. You know, all that could be seen were their backs.
They literally made a crescent shield around you.
Yes, yes.
I want folks to see the family that was. Your husband Charlie is in this picture with your children, who were, what were their ages at the time?
They would have been about 7, 5, and a year and a half, or about a year. Yeah, just young and sweet and innocent and full of life.
Were you angry at Charlie for leaving you to deal?
You know, there were so many emotions that I went through, but I knew that Charlie's motivation that day was anger that he felt at the Lord for the loss of our first daughter. And so I didn't want anger to reside in me. You know, that's what motivated him. I didn't want that to take root and have a hold and a place inside of me. And so it was really just going to the Lord with all the emotions I felt and surrendering them, laying them at the feet of the cross, and just letting Jesus come and redeem all of that. You know, redeem my suffering, redeem the pain, redeem everything that I felt about all that had happened, and allow him to show me something else in the midst of it.
You say very, very wisely, very insightfully, that it was anger that motivated this terrible thing. You didn't want to perpetuate the fruit of anger. I think people need to know that the loss of this first baby, she lived
for 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
She was born at 26 weeks of pregnancy.
And then there was the loss of another pregnancy.
Yes, the second pregnancy, we lost that one too.
And there are no answers to what really would be in Charlie's mind in taking this terrible action. But I think what stands out is his loneliness as a man. The need for men to have other men they can open up to. You look back now and see that that was very much missing in Charlie's life.
Absolutely, yes. You know, that place of connection where we can bare our souls to another, knowing that it's a safe place to be heard and express emotion. You know, the place of friendships is so important.